It would seem as though by 35 years you have it together. No, you're still figuring things out, right?
Yeah, me too. So you're on track.
Yeah. So I was around, and he just felt the energy that something is right, and he's like, listen, to speak to somebody because.
So the mentor told you to speak to somebody?
No, my father.
Your dad, your father-in-law,
yeah.
right?
So my wife's father, and he's like, you need to speak to somebody because, you're always working, you're always tired, but you ain't seen the results, right? So you need to speak to somebody. You say, I can't speak to you, but I can recommend somebody. And my first visit to this guy's house, I actually just sat there for a couple of times watching this man eat, basically, and having very light conversations. And one of the defining moments to me was when I was telling him about the whole block factory incident and stuff like that. And I was like, listen, I really want to buy this thing because I was actually getting a proper factory at the time to buy it. He's like, so what's this to you? I say, well, boy, it is impossible for me to buy this because it's $1 million. And he started laughing. This man started laughing, like eating whatever soup or whatever it is, and genuinely, wholeheartedly laughing. I'm like, what is happening here? I'm pouring my heart out and he's laughing. He said, when you get to my age and you have X amount of businesses and you have all these different things happening, $1 million problem seems like a walk in the park. So you say, you take me back to that point when I had $1 million problem, I'll be a happy person.
To Conversation Inc. here, where we visualize your career path, your life as a young person, or you're probably transitioning in your career as an adult. And I am Kersha Garner.
And I'm Ken Sambury.
And we are
Conversation Inc.
Ken.
Hop on.
Come on.
I say it too slow.
Yes.
You fine?
Yes, I find like you could have given me a little more just so that we're going to try that again.
Interesting. All right. Sure.
Let me try it again.
No problem.
So I'm Kersha Garner.
And I'm Ken Sambury.
And we are Conversation Inc. All right, you did it. Okay. All right, I will take
but
that.
I feel like you give me the we are slow, so I give it that same tone back,
No, you have no. I think I thought a little more passion.
I feel like real passion is just like slow passion.
No, what is there something called slow passion?
Yeah, for sure.
What is slow passion?
Sure. When you're just taking the time, you're massaging it in.
Okay,
slow passion.
You. So
Conversation Inc.
Conversation Inc.
Yeah.
So you want me to bring like my radio voice kind of thing then?
I don't think you need to do anything. I think you're doing great.
Not a problem.
Hey, so we're here with Kevon LaFleur, and of course, Kevon LaFleur is the owner of Clinical Media Group, and Clinical Media Group does your lights, your truss, all of the special effects and stuff that you want for your event. Check Clinical Media, and also along with his wife, he co-owns King's Lounge, and that's like a premium upscale barber spa. You want to get your little beard done, that kind of energy. So yeah, check Kevon for that. And yeah, Kevon, we're happy to have you here on Conversation Inc. Yeah, talk to us.
Pleasure's mine. Yeah, pleasure's mine.
Good.
Glad to be here.
So, Kevon, as you share your journey as a serial entrepreneur, how did you even get into business?
Well, that story goes all the way back to probably like 5 years. Most times people say when I was 5 years, that's my story as well. My father was a businessman, so he owned a mechanic shop, right? And from 5, 6, 7, I was actually doing work with him, and he would hire me to do something called rewiring your alternator. I remember that job very clearly. It was tedious, and one thing I remember about that job is that I never got paid. So yeah, but I learned the importance of work as far as that time, and I saw my father. He never worked for anybody besides himself, and that's one thing that stuck with me. And I think most of my siblings actually they're into business, so it's like a family thing. We just do business.
Yeah, is your father still around?
Yes, he is.
Okay, nice. He's still with the mechanic thing. Oh, you didn't know.
Well, listen.
I guess his siblings just running things, so he just collecting.
Well, to be honest,
sibling money.
My father, if I call him now to fix my car, at that age, he will run and come and fix my father. Is still my hero when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Right. But he's officially retired.
Right.
But he was one of the most sought after auto electricians on the east side for years. Everybody will come to him. So that's one thing I also noted as well too. Persons will come when they can't solve a problem, and they will actually come to him. Other electricians will come to him to solve problems because he was so experienced, right, at the time, right? So
Gotcha. So 5 years old, getting involved in business, in the family business, and I'm pretty sure that went on for years. But when did that transition take place where you went from the family business to now getting into your business?
Well, I guess is also seeing the highs and the low points of business made me decide I don't want to be full-time in business, right? Because there were times that, listen, groceries for so, right? And then there were also times when, you could tell that, there's a struggle where although my mother was very creative with giving us rice and it's like a delicacy, rice and butter, right? I'm sure we would have had rice and butter when you go to school. But my mother made it seem as though it was a gourmet meal, But that's when I realized we had a lot of high and low points. Big up moms over that one, right? But I realized that I did not want to be a businessman at that point. I started to follow the path of going to school. I did School of Accounting and Management. I did John Donaldson at the time, right? I did UE, right? Continuing studies, and other little stuff here and there, different courses. And then I started working different jobs and stuff like that. And I ended up in the Prime Minister's Orchestra. And I was cool. I'm making good money playing music, right? And I was very happy at that point. I always did some measure of online on the side hustle, right? But it wasn't really my focus that I need to have my own business and I need to build this big organization and stuff. No, it wasn't that. It was just side hustle, and it stuck with me as a side hustle until I decided, you know what? I think we got the band was discontinued, right? And from that point, I was like, again, I need to have my own sense of stability because a job couldn't do that for me.
Gotcha.
And at that point, I realized, okay, I now understand why my father was working for himself. You could never get fired from yourself, all right? And at that point, I actually had a whole turning point now back in the other direction to say, listen, business is the only thing that can get you where you need to go, all right?
Gotcha. So I like you gave us a quick cameo there in terms of your story, but let me go pull it back for a second in terms of that secondary school, that teenager, Kevon. So that childhood being introduced to business and getting into your teenage years, was business still a part of what you wanted to do, or your mindset at that point in time was, let me get a good job, let me get my education and get it done? Like, what was going on with Kevon at that stage?
So I was a full-time musician in mind, in partners, we were all about the music. So in a sense, I was my own business person. I was on my own business, right? So yes, I was still thinking that I could make money, but it was always a side hustle kind of mentality, right? So I always did gigs, right? Big up to Rodney and Kieran, who's my first band, right? But we gigged for years, and we were, one of the most sought after groups at the time. So we were always busy. I was always gigging while going to school, while, that was from like about 16 onwards till around 24, around here. I was very much involved in music. So I didn't see it as a job. I didn't see it as a business, right? I just saw it as a way to make some extra money while I go to school still, right? Gotcha. And we did that and we flourished with that until it actually turned into something more,
Okay, and what you did at the university level?
So at university, I did something called telecommunications and telephony study, right? So it was, of course, the continuing study side, which is, that was in George Street. Right? So we did that. That was like a 2-year course. So when we finished, I was able to work as a contractor for Fleur, right? And that opened my mind to a lot of tech stuff and getting more into tech type ideas and looking for jobs along that line, right? But I was still looking for jobs coming out of school and say, okay, right, now I'm qualified, right? I can start looking for jobs. I went to Fleur, I went to different places, and I landed a contract with a guy who was working with TSCT and Fleur and all these different companies. He was actually my lecturer. So straight out from school, he hired me. He's like, listen, I like your work ethic so far. I'll hire you and stuff like that. So I jumped right into that as well too from UE.
Right. So you had the tech side of Kevon, you had the music and the business.
Yes.
So at what point in time was there probably like an integration, or you decided, okay, I'm going to choose one out of the other because we had to live, bills had to pay, you have to work. Like, what was going on with Kevon probably at those, early 20s, that decade of that 20 to 30? What was happening?
So it was around the time of about when I got married. I probably was married for about 2 or 3 years.
At what age you got married?
At 25. So that's probably around 28, 29. Right? So I got married. People say that's young, right? But we actually together from since we were 19, so that wasn't too.
Yeah,
they know it's a long time, right?
yeah.
Exactly.
So at the age of 28, 29, I realized that yes, I could sustain my wife, right? But now if kids have to come into play, that's a whole different ball game. So I needed to find something else to be able to build, something bigger than just getting a 9-to-5 salary, right? And at the time, it was not a big salary, right? At the time, this was been working for Divine Echoes, which is as a musician, right? And then from there, I went to work for an electronics company, and still that was even less, right? So I sort of need to do more, and I actually left the company to do nothing, to just focus on building. So it was a risky move, right? But I had to separate myself from the 9-to-5 scenario.
So you had no business at that point in time when you left?
No.
So you just know that you needed to leave?
I had ideas of the event industry, being on stage, working in a place that also sold equipment, right? So I had knowledge of that side, as in what was the perfect equipment to buy to basically take over the market. Because my daily routine was engrossed in what's the latest, what's next, So I always had that knowledge itself. So being on stage and knowing what's missing in the industry, having the knowledge of what to purchase, I took a back seat and I said, listen, let me take some time to decide if this is what I want to do. And I think that paid off, tremendously, because at that point is when I decided I'm going to start something. I partnered with a friend and we started something very small. We did that for a couple of years. And then, of course, as two separate individuals having different goals, different visions, and, I decided to just, separate. And at that point is when business kind of, grew a little bit because of the vision.
With that, leaving of the 9-to-5 and then doing your research, understanding where there's a gap within the entertainment industry, like how long did it take you before you left, you figured out what it is, and then where you get the capital from? Because as entrepreneurs, it's one thing when you see entrepreneurs growing, but the money have to come from somewhere. Kevon, talk to me. Where did that capital for you started for you to be able to now go into partnership, get it done, and then recognize the growth? So
that initial startup would have been from angel investors, right? So family members of both myself and my partner gave us some funding. And we were able to start with just a couple of lights, because we were firstly a lighting company only, right? And we got that money from them, and it's like, listen, we see what you guys doing. You guys are very, intelligent in the space itself. We're going to invest in you. And they gave us some money. We bought our first set of equipment. From there, we just grind. We just grind for a couple of years. And I had to do things like, I'm not renting anywhere in my house, and certain luxuries we had to kind of forego in that beginning. And I was married at that time as well, so we had to say, listen, we're looking at the future, grind. We started building money from that point. I also had access to like a little small loan from the banks and that type of stuff. But those were personal loans that you had access to once you could prove that you could pay back these loans back in the day.
Yeah.
But how did you build your clientele? Because you're talking about grind, so we understand that money part in terms of the angel investment, the personal loans, but then somebody have to hire you. Somebody has to be able to run the equipment.
Right.
Like, what was that process like?
So my first core of clientele came from the musician side. I was on stage constantly, so I knew who were the clients who booked the AV companies. I knew a lot of that side of it from being on stage. So what I started to do was reach back out now to a lot of these people who were throwing concerts. A lot of musicians themselves were throwing concerts at the time. I say, oh no, I could do lighting for you as well. So I would sometimes be on stage playing, and we set up.
Yeah.
Which is very tough a lot of the times, because now done set up, run on stage, play, and then I had a lot of moments like that, but it allowed me to be seen, right, in different capacities. And then being somebody trusted on stage, because I think I was a gifted musician. So I also came at a level of excellence. And if that had translated into something else, most people were easy to trust, that we will come and deliver a good service. So my first set of clients came from that side, just being a musician and speaking to persons who were like me and needed that level of service,
Anything on your end?
I have a lot of questions. All right, so I'll start off with so what secondary school you went? I think it was Garner.
Northeastern.
Right,
Yeah,
Northeastern.
yeah.
Right. So in secondary school, like, what were your dreams and aspirations at the time? Because I know you said you wasn't feeling the business thing at that point.
Yeah.
So what you wanted to do then?
Interestingly enough, secondary school I did electronics and physics and that type of stuff.
Right.
So
still kind of tacky.
Yeah. But school never really prepared us for the afterlife of school.
Yeah, I feel him.
In general. So we were just going through the motion. I know I wanted to do well in school, but no. My original plan when I was younger was I was going to be a pilot. So and then when you realize that pilot school costs, aviation school costs X amount of money, you just decide, well, that's not
for you again,
right? That's not for me, right? So I think that ended when I was probably around 11 or 12 years, and from there I didn't really have a plan besides to do well because of my parents.
Whatever you're doing,
yes, and because of the sacrifices that my parents made, I wanted to do well for them.
I see.
So I didn't really have a plan for after.
Yeah, like personally.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question is so you said you had to kind of bootstrap, go to your parents and friends and stuff to get money. So, like, tell me a little bit more about that process. You just said, hey, I want to get money. Do you give them returns? You get any money back? You tell them thanks? Like, how that went?
Yeah. Sure. And I'll say, before I answer that question, even now, I can comfortably go by anybody and ask for $100,000. I'm just saying, right? $50,000, $10,000, because you have a track record. Once you have a track record of doing anything with excellence and delivering on what you say, so it can be as simple as, I will come here for this podcast and I will be here on time, but when I'm finished, at least you have some sort of value from it.
Yeah.
Right? And once that happens, I'm sure if I need to get something in terms of the podcast fee, right?
From Kersha.
From Kersha.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Kersha would say, yeah.
Be like, yeah, remember that time I gave the pod.
Right. So even back in the day, we had that type of credibility from at least from my parents and from my business partner's parents. He was very well. He did very well in school, and he was that type of person. So when we approached them, it wasn't too difficult to convince them,
right?
Because we were two young, hardworking individuals at that time. On the parent side, most parents will believe in what the child have to do,
right?
But again, my mom saw when I didn't have, I flew to New York and I worked, make some US dollars, and I came back, right, to do what I had to do.
That was like gigs?
Well,
like a regular job?
I did regular jobs, but I actually gig a lot. I was in a church, and I even played pan on the subway and all too, right?
Gotcha. And this was after secondary school, after you?
Yeah, this was after secondary school.
Gotcha.
I did some busking in New York on the subway.
How was that experience?
It was the most shameful experience.
Very shameful, boy.
It was.
Why shameful?
Why?
Because people shunning you.
Yeah. And at the time,
how old was at the time?
Probably like 21.
Right.
So I was young and
you're studying that.
Yeah. So I remember it very clearly. It was a winter, and I had on my coat, right. So when you go in the subway, sometimes it's make hot. When I went in the subway, I did not take off my coat because I had a hoodie and I had a strap around my face and everything. And trust me, I didn't want anybody to notice.
To recognize.
Who I was, because I was still very prideful. Right. And there was somebody passing and say, "Yo, Trini boy," and I just waiting to see if he say, "Yeah, I can't want to say no," but he didn't. But I did make.
Yeah,
no, but it's a steel pan plane.
All right. Makes sense.
That is like 20 years ago, 19 years ago.
Okay, so it wasn't as
popular right now.
So once somebody from Trinidad, the Caribbean, they see a steel pan, of course they will recognize it. And
associated with Trinidad.
Deal. Yeah, I went to a lot of churches, and when I pulled out this instrument, people were amazed and they were actually looking under, and it was like a nice experience because at that point now you have a unique product.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why I learned about having a unique product as well too. And I was able to charge what I wanted to charge.
It's not like they can get an next man.
No. So I did that for about 6 months, and my parents saw that. My mom saw that, right? And I think it was easy now to really get them to buy into whatever it is we needed to get at the time. So I think building credibility with just how you lived and
so did you pay them back, or it was just like, thank you very much for supporting me?
I ain't pay back my mother.
I mean, that's honest.
Yeah, pay back with love, but no,
of course,
my mom didn't get anything from me, It's a different kind of energy now. But yes, we did pay back, of course, everybody else, in the space, because you also want the opportunity to go back and ask, listen, hey, things are bigger now on, and even now I practice that principle because I still believe in OPP, right? And that, not necessarily the bank. And if I do take on an investor, I do pay them back in sometimes before the time, because you want to have the opportunity to go back again and again and again and again, right? So that's something we can talk about in terms of using other people's money, and I believe in that, right? And I try to involve certain people for certain reasons. So the network as well too. So investors don't just come and give me money. I'll make sure that there's a network around that person and stuff like that as well too.
So was there ever a time when somebody invests and then you plan to pay them back in like a month and then you don't have the money, and then so what do you do then? Like you just tell them you'll pay them in terms,
No, you keep communicating. One thing I've learned is from several older businessmen is that you always communicate. Somebody calling you and you don't have the money to answer your phone.
At least say something.
Because at that time, they're just looking for some measure of communication. It's not necessarily, I want that money right now. Some people, yes, genuinely. But most people who lend or invest, they just want to know that, I can communicate with you still, and you then go on rogue and disappear, right? So keep the lines of communication open, and your investors will gladly say, okay, no problem, I understand, I totally understand next month and stuff like that. So I've learned that over the years to answer the phone with a smile, nervously, right? But definitely answer your phone, so.
Was there ever a time that you were stuck in business, that just kind of going off of Ken's point, where you're stuck in business where you had to cover bills, you had to pay employees, you had to pay your own bills, and you just couldn't? Was there ever a point in time within business?
I believe in every business person's life, especially when you have, so I have 13 employees on one side and 5 on one side. So think about every month, and that's like the worst time, right? Because
that was you looking forward to that. It's the beginning of month. Life nice now, boy. Just say, boy. Hey, boy, you have a good way again now.
Right.
This is the beginning. So you have 3 weeks to breathe.
Correct. All 28 and thing. Sweat on them.
Of course. Where are we going on, boy? The only set of people happy at that point is the employees, right?
Right.
So I had moments like that, right? But what I will do is I will personally work to try to, cover the bills. Sometimes it'll be at the time, I'll go and do extra gigs. So, I'll go and play music and, I'll get paid at $1,200-$1,500, and I'll actually go and pay an employee one time straight from getting paid. So I would have had moments, a lot of moments like that. Those are not nice moments because it also makes you feel defeated from the business side. Because now I have to take the money that I was supposed to be taking to spend for my family or for myself. As a musician, I now have to take to pay a worker or pay somebody, an employee, just to make sure that they stay working as well too. So what is happening there in the business? What's going on with the business itself? And you start to question the decisions about the business, right? And for me, I had to sit back and now start building frameworks, building systems, and I started to work on building systems. Why it is every month and money running short? Some system is
something
working.
Wrong.
Right? And I started to fix that. And once I started to do that, which for one business is collections. So I will do a lot of events, and you know how the event will is going.
Yeah,
so
they're just chilling out.
I ain't seeing all promoters there, but promoters will be like, you know what, the event didn't do so well. And you should, as a business person, have the financial ability to say, okay, I understand. What's the grace period? A month, 2 months, fine. But in the beginning, it was never like that. I work, I want my money the next day.
Gotcha.
Sometimes before. Right? And that kind of put a chokehold on the business where you wasn't getting paid on time. And that created a problem. So I had to fix that. So what I started to do, there are certain clients that you can ask for prepayments. There are certain clients, and you start dividing and deciding and creating tables. And I created a whole big spreadsheet with who should pay before, who can't pay before, who normally pays 30 days after, 90 days after.
So you know how to balance out your bucks and how things are going to be distributed.
I built a serious cash flow system and took me out of that hole. And even on the supplier side as well too. I will tell my suppliers, and start to work out that side because there's two sides of the coin.
Yeah, correct.
Right? And I will see, sometimes I'll just pay a supplier right after event, even though I didn't get paid. I was like, listen, this is how it should be. This is how it should be. And most of my suppliers they've worked with me for years. Right? So we now have this nice relationship, right? Where I now have a nice pool in the middle, right? I can now swing either way, right? And that allowed me to have some flexibility. But I was only over years of trial and error of different systems. And I kind of find the right system that works for my employees, my clients, and my suppliers, you know?
Okay. So clinical media, you talk about being a serial entrepreneur. So I know that we only introduced like 2 businesses. But what I understand from entrepreneurship is sometimes you start something, you fail, you turn something else around. Is there anything before these 2 successful businesses that would have taken place that you could say, okay, I tried it didn't work as much? Could you go as far back as possible in terms of that journey?
As far back as possible will be a company called Telecommunications Number One Solution.
All right.
It was the longest name, and whenever I had to go to the bank, they used to get pissed because they used to have to fill out the form, right? Telecommunication, and it's not number one, number ONE Solution. So it's a very long name. And what we did there, and I came over that business right out of course, the UE telecommunication. I was like, I'm going to be the number one solution in the country. And, you know, I always thought at the highest level, always in it. Whatever it is I'm trying.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes, I like to be at the top, and I want to either dominate the market, even if it takes a year, 2 years, right? That business, I had some friends, and, you know, we used to go around installing cable in the country and stuff like that. And I believe one of the reasons why it was not super successful or didn't have longevity, telecommunications is an ever-moving business or field, right? Think about analog cable back in the day than what we have now. People didn't really watch cable.
Yeah,
so I was in this field that was just moving so fast. And I couldn't keep up with it because I was so new I didn't have the resources, right? A lot of things weren't in my favor. I didn't even have the staff. I was hiring friends, and we used to go on lime basically. Sometimes we used to go to install cable by somebody, and we had them drinking a lime and Fleur for but we would end up liming for hours, and I'm like, yo, I'm on the clock and I have 4 more jobs to do, and my staff don't understand. You know why?
Because they're friends,
you used to lime before, so they actually come on the job to lime. So that business, you know, didn't really do well over time. That was one. The other one I did was something called a block factory. So I got a dream one night that I'm gonna become super rich from. All my dreams starts off with you're going to become super rich. His voice, right?
Right.
Doing a block factory, right? And I actually did. I went online and I did research, and the universe always aligns everything for you, right? So I met this old guy, and he introduced me to something called Alibaba 20 years ago. Or when it now came out, I can't remember. And I don't even think it was called Alibaba at the time, right? And he told me, listen, you can go and check out this roofing machinery and concrete block machinery. I said, say what? He just happened to mention that. And I was like, but I was now thinking about this like last week, right? So did some research, actually found a local guy who had one.
Nice.
And contacted him. I went and I paid for the machine. He came and he showed me how to make blocks, and I was making blocks in my street. The only thing I didn't realize was that to dry blocks takes up acres or space.
You needed land.
You needed land. So that was one problem I always had in the beginning of being an entrepreneur. I never studied and understood the whole picture. So I bought the machine, put it in my father's yard basically, and started making blocks. And before 2 weeks, my whole street, people could park. My neighbors was like, what's happening here? Why am I driving up concrete blocks, you know? So it was really bad, until I had to really tell my neighbors, listen, I'm trying something. But thankfully my neighbors were my family as well too. So we grew up together. And some of them were actually family, right? And I finished my first batch. I actually placed an ad. Back in the day, I had no Facebook. Right. You're talking about
newspaper
classifieds.
Right.
But I had only classifieds and something
concrete block call.
Right. So
did you have a name for that business?
Yeah. I still actually maintain that name, which is Eastcrete Limited. Okay. And I still actively pay all my annual returns for that company, because it was one of the first companies that I did that I truly believed in. And I mean, I believe that God will align that back. And I mean, I have plans for it as well too.
Yeah, in time.
But so I made my first batch, put my ad out, and somebody actually called, and I was like, "What? Somebody called? Why would he call?" And the thing is, I put the ad out. I'm still surprised that somebody called me. Right? Why would he call a random person for blocks?
Yeah.
I pick up the phone and I say, "Yo, here we're going on. I have some blocks, 1,600 blocks. They're dry and they'll be ready in about a week." Man said, "I have patience." Now I did sell for like $1 cheaper than, of course, the market, right? So he came, he saw the blocks dry, and he's like, yeah, man, this is looking like good business, right? Pile them up on this, a truck at the time, I call a wrecker at the time or something like that, and they pile it up. And the guy was living up Mova, right? And he went ahead, and I sent the truck up, I'm confident the guy paid everything while the truck left. By the time the truck reached to Mova, where the guy was living, all the blocks broke. When I say all, only like crap,
What?
right? Because the driver
Wait, nah.
right?
You need to bring it in.
Ah, boy.
Don't do that.
Ah, boy.
I'm laughing, all right?
All
But I did cry, right? Because guess what? I literally just get paid in my hand.
wow.
And the guy said, listen, well, what we could do? So I was like, listen, how much blocks could we salvage from this thing? Choosing is like 6 out of 1,600. So at that time, I just had to go drive up now. Mind you, pay the delivery driver for the broken blocks, right? Pay him first, give the guy back his money, all right? And then at that point, went back home. I leave the blocks because I couldn't afford to pay another delivery driver
Right.
to take the rubber now, right? So I said you could use it to pay, right? And I went to and I cried. I literally had to go and cry and that was the end of that business to me. I
And I sell the machine.
Yeah. I said, guess what? I
Good thing I get sell.
yeah, I called by the same guy. I said, yo, this machine, can't really take again because now he said, yeah, I'll buy it from me for half price. So I can imagine he maybe did that for about 5 or 6 times.
Right.
Because if you don't know about the business, you would never know that you need all the space
Correct.
for this stuff, right? But that was one business that I did that failed as well too. So I'll give one more because I have quite a few.
Yeah,
go right ahead.
So I again, in doing events, you have slow periods during the year, right? So I had a lot of downtime after Carnival. In the earlys, right? Now it's not like that, but in the earlys. So I decided I want to get into fish farming and aquaponics. So I did go on another lighting guy, right? I don't want to call his name
Don't call
because I'm not going to call his name. but he introduced me to aquaponics. He's a very brilliant guy, and I must say, right? So he convinced me buy this equipment. $30,000 just came out of Carnival. That's easy money.
Yeah, no problem.
Right, cool. Give him that money and say, listen, bring this stuff, come set up. And I was excited. Listen, again, what was my call there? I'll become a millionaire from this project.
Right.
This is one of them, right? So I was very excited. Set up again we had in our neighborhood, we basically own the land, right? So I put up some stuff there in the land, and I was just waiting patiently. My fishes grew. To cut the story short, about the size, nice fishes, and I was about to start frying and start selling to my neighbors and stuff like that. 700 fishes. And there was a day that we had an event, and I went to set up for the event, and my father called me and said, listen, I'm seeing these fishes floating. Are they supposed to be floating? So I was like, well, yeah, these fishes.
What's this one?
These fishes, right? So he's like, yeah, but they kind of floating upside down. I was like, no, well, that's a problem.
That's a big problem.
I actually, I left the event so fast, right? Came home and I saw about 500 fishes floating.
At the same time, what happened? Somebody contaminated the tank or?
Current went. So again, yeah, so
He didn't study the body generator.
But he said he had a problem. I'm thinking about that big thing.
I never saw the big picture of the whole thing.
Right.
So, and I called him, I said, why you didn't tell me you didn't need a generator to run this business? He said, well, you never asked, right? So, of course, before a fellow violence, right? The point is, I couldn't salvage the fishes, I tried to save about 4 of them. It was not happening. I mean, that was a depressing time as well, too, because it almost reached to this point where, okay, I could have sold, I could have made $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 back easily. And it didn't happen, and it was so close. But not having all the information in any business is where you could start losing money. And I did that. And I had to understand, what am I missing here in business? Right? Okay, you're eager to start, but you're never actually taking time to do plans and
it
stuff
out.
like that.
Let me ask you this. Around that time, you were married and no 9 to 5. You were just dealing with those businesses while feeling...
Yeah, of course. So my wife, I mean, I will always say she has a very, very strong broad back because she was the one working a 9 to 5. And when these things happen, I used to, cause a secret, I used to keep a bank card now, you know. The thing is, I convinced her that, you know, we're now married, so, you know, this
the two is one, the two, right? I got you.
But I was just, I was just preparing for, you know, moments like this, because it could happen, you know, and I mean, trust me, I went and I swipe and I do what I do, and, you know, but yes, it was very hard at the time because I had a family and these businesses weren't doing well. But I always had one main vehicle that would carry all of them, which was the events company. So again, throw it hard, double down, work hard, get it done. Right, get back some cash back in the system, doing events, right? And I'm very thankful for the event industry for always having something, especially in general, that you can, you know, now adjust your prices or give more value, and, you know, you'll definitely get a job. You know, so those were two major failures in my life. But it taught me a lot, though, how to rebuild from scratch. Because from that point, every single time I had to actually rebuild from minus.
Right. But what was the lessons learned coming out of those failures, and what do you do different now?
So now I involve my wife first.
And don't take the card.
Yeah. So no, actually, I give her back that giving back up the card was a ceremony. We actually had a ceremony.
Right? Love it.
Yeah, you know, because I realized that I needed to do that to show her that, listen, I could be somebody who's trusted with a vision. So I sold her the vision and I give her back the card, right? But now we plan.
Okay.
So I learned the importance of, and she did an MBA as well too.
Where did she do her MBA?
Yes. So she understands from the book
Just
sense.
Now, you didn't miss it. Where did she do her MBA?
Oh, where? I think this amazing school called Lockjack. You know,
is that the Arthur Lockjack lowest school of his?
These Lockjack people there, it's like a cult, you know.
No. We are not. We are community.
Community.
Just community.
So I mean, that balance of what she brought, systems, and we have to have systems for every business we do now, right? Which is a manual for employees, you know, how to open, close the business, different things like that. Which, because when you're doing it, you know, have to go from start to finish and take all problems into consideration, and then solve these problems now before they even happen.
Yeah, risk assessment, very important.
So we did all of that for almost every business that we have, and even the events, the festival, and all too. We do all of that for that.
Love that.
Those processes.
Can you tell us more? Don't overstep that. Tell us more about that festival.
So what is the festival?
Oh, so this is a jazz festival. A good mentor and friend of mine called Wayne Bruno, who used to play with guitar with David Rudder. He was the musical director for David Rudder, but he passed away. But he was my musical mentor. And I remember in his class, he had a class called Business Management of Music or something like that, right? And he was like, if you don't find it, then build it. So this is one of the reasons why I did start the media company, because I couldn't find it around. I couldn't find a lighting company that I could say, listen, align all my music with your lighting tech, make a nice grand show, and give it back to me. I couldn't find that. So I started that business, right? But, you know, he was my mentor. What was the question again?
Tell me about I Am Jazz Festival.
Right. So because of that now, I decided to start this festival, right? Because I couldn't find it around where you could come be entertained in the jazz space. And from a musician's point of view, that level of creativity with the lighting and the screens and having everything come together as one, and not just only about the music. Yes, the music is good, but people also want to be entertained a show. They want when they're walking through, they have a show. They want when they're walking through, they're interacting with different vendors and different things like that. I want to incorporate a little more games and that type of stuff to have it very interactive. Right, I want the experience also to be that you can interact with the musicians. So a lot of times you go to a show and you never actually meet the musicians because they're backstage and they're going on. So I built a show where we have a picture zone very close to where the stage is. So you have to now interact with everybody as a musician as well too, right? And I wanted that experience to be different from your regular jazz shows where you just go and sit, watch, clap, and then go home.
Gotcha.
All right, and that's why we decided to build the festival, right? So it's basically my point of view, being on stage, being off stage, right, and being a business.
And now giving that to
and now giving it back to now a community, right? The best of three worlds. on stage, off stage, and as a business person, you know, of course, has to see the feasibility of everything, logistics, design, and that type of stuff, you know. So.
Gotcha. So now that you failed, you understood what success is, you built the system, you brought your wife in, which was very wise. Gentlemen, please learn that. Bring wifey in early, you know, have those systems in place. When you think now in terms of you as an entrepreneur, what does the next 10 years look like for you now that you seem to be more grounded and knowing what is going on with you? What does that next 10 years look like for you?
Well, two phases. I don't think I could press like this for the next 20 years, right? So of course you have to have a cutoff point in terms of how much energy you give into these type of things in terms of events, sleepless nights, you know, having to come back home and then do another business, people with another business. So I want to actually get more into the softer side of things, which is tech, right? So I started building apps and that type of platforms for communities, right? Once I get those things off, I believe the future of business is going to look it's going to be very techy. AI is going to be managing a whole lot of stuff in terms of, you know, social media, and so basically there'll be less employees, right? And to get into that, that's a whole next conversation, right? But I want piece of that pie, basically, right? So I definitely want a platform where I can grow a community, and that's going to bring its own generated income. The other side is that I want to be able to teach young entrepreneurs. So when I was younger, all these mistakes that I made could have been avoided.
Right.
And it's only when I was about 35 years, I actually found a mentor at 35. And that person was able to show me certain things, how to manipulate cash flow and these different things. And when I learned that is when I started building systems and started documenting my cash flow and realizing, oh, that's a big problem right there. Fix this, right? And if I didn't have him in my life, at that time, I would have still been, you know,
in the same cycle.
How did you find this mentor?
So there was a point where business wasn't going well in terms of the event space and everything. And my father-in-law, of course, you know, you could feel the energy.
It's so crazy. 35 years?
Yeah.
No, I'm 36, right?
Sorry?
I'm 36.
You're 36?
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, it would seem as though by 35, yeah, you have it together. No, you know, you're still figuring things out, right?
No, me too. So you're on track.
Yeah. So I was around, and he just felt the energy that something is right, and he's like, listen, you need to speak to somebody because.
So the mentor told you to speak to somebody?
No, my father-in-law.
Your dad, father-in-law,
yeah.
right?
So my wife's father, and he was like, you know, you need to speak to somebody because, I mean, you're always working, you're always tired, but you ain't seen the results.
Yeah.
So then it's not the work side of things, right? It's not the job.
It's not your work ethic, yeah.
Right? So you need to speak to somebody. You say, I can't speak to you, but I can recommend somebody. And I mean, my first visit to this guy's house, I mean, of course, as men, and you know, you're judging everything when you're walking, you know, it's a Benz back, okay, I'm walking, you know, the house looked good, I could sit down in this house and learn something. You know, if I walk in there, you know, and it's quite the opposite.
Yeah, pressure on you can.
Yeah. I'm like, yes.
Well, this man will show me nothing. Yeah,
he on crap, you know. But I actually just sat there for a couple of times watching this man eat, basically, and having very light conversations. And one of the defining moments for me was when I was telling him about the whole block factory incident and stuff like that. And I was like, listen, I really want to buy this thing because I was actually getting a proper factory at the time to buy. And he's like, so what's this you? I say, well, boy, it is impossible for me to buy this because it's $1 million. And he started laughing. This man started laughing, like eating whatever soup or whatever it is, and genuinely, wholeheartedly laughing. Like, I'm like, what is happening here? I'm pouring my heart out and he's laughing. And when he's finished, he's like, listen, I wish I had $1 million problem. He said when they get to my, because he was about 60 years or something like that.
Right.
He said when you get to my age and you have X amount of businesses and you have all these different things happening, $1 million problem seems like a walk in the park. So you say, take me back to that point when I had $1 million problem, I'll be a happy person, right? So I started to think bigger at that point, basically, from then on. As I can't think that have $1 million problem is a difficult problem to solve.
Yeah.
So if it can be solved, then why can't I solve it? And I started to ask questions to him about that along those lines. What's my disconnect, right? And one of them was, of course, building systems. One of them was cash flow. And one of them was giving value to your clients and not necessarily trying to give discounts. So you don't always say jump in that scenario and say, well, I'll give it for $1,500 less. I'll give it for $1,000. No. What value could I add to you and your business? And I started building all my things around that and started adding so much value that even if the next time you're looking for somebody else and they don't give you that value, you have to come right back to me.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So my price stays the same. My price is my price. But I'll give you extra value. You know, and he taught me all these different things and little tips and stuff like that. He also taught me how to do things like cold calling people and very simple techniques that you take for granted, you know, starting conversations, practice to start conversations with strangers.
Right.
That might seem so simple, but it also allowed me to now start conversation with business people in rooms. Never forget when the band went to, and this was before speaking to him, right? But I was one of the persons that I would just walk up to the Honorable Patrick Manning, University of Seoul, and just start having a conversation. And getting it from that guy and saying, okay, well, I used to do that, but now that's something. So now I will walk into any space and, you know, I will speak confidently and have a conversation with anybody because you never know where that could head, right? And, you know, I start building my network from just, and that's one of the things they taught me. You have to build your network because your jobs could come from your clients and their network. Your jobs could come from anybody else, somebody who you passed by and you didn't speak to them, take them for granted. Your job could come from anybody. So start building your network to be able to, of course, feed into your businesses and stuff like that. So,
yeah, gotcha. So having that mentor kind of help pivot in terms of who Kevon was now at 35. And how old are you now, if you don't mind sharing with the team?
I'll be 44. You start forgetting after.
Afterwards, so that was like 9 years.
It was like 9 years ago.
9 years ago, and it seemed as though that was a long time, but it was like a decade ago. And when you look back in terms of having that mentor in your space now, helping you to think differently, look at life differently, having $1 million problems as opposed to $1,000 problems, what has that done for you now in terms of family life and business and the growth that you see happening in your career?
Well, it definitely allows you to think in bigger spans, I just say 10-year spans. So now I build everything, I write my vision, I sit with my family and we plan as a family. We do our vision boards and stuff like that for the year, and I do it for 1 to 5 year, right? And we always reflect as a family at the beginning of the year. We always go for a drive somewhere, and we document what we did, what we didn't do, what we're going to do, right? And I started deep planning, right? So I started planning for deep future, right? And I would always reference like one of my friends. So he's a guy called Dure Atta, to have to of course reference him because he taught me about the deep future and start planning not for now, not for next year, not for next 2 years, at least 10 years. So, I mean, I could pull up my spreadsheet, say I'm a spreadsheet guy, right? And I spreadsheet for 10 years. And once I started doing that, everything aligned because my project for the next 2 years is already planned. And I just reach that point and execute. It's like a no-brainer at this point. You know? So I start deep planning for my family now. So we actually plan vacations for the next 2 years and all these different things. Start deep planning so far into the future that we just living and executing, and fun things will happen, and extras will happen, and I'll get extra jobs along the way, and I'll meet nice people along the way, but I don't know what I do in every single day and every month and every week and every year. You know?
So what do you say to that person who is the planner? They will sit down and plan, but they do. And I like what you said, living and executing. What do you say to that person who, I have all these plans, I have all these business ideas, like I know what I want to do, but how do I actually execute? What kind of habit do I try to get into that will help me move from just planning and having the big ideas in my mind, so now executing it and actually seeing it come to pass?
So we could motivate ourselves by watching videos and hype ourselves up and write and planning stuff like that, right? But you have to be disciplined, and you have to have routines, and you have to start having things that will make you, function. So, for example, if you know you're not the type of person, you write down all these plans and stuff like that, and you don't execute, right? Then set a time in the morning when you have to get up Set a time when you have to visit the emails. Start setting disciplinary rules for your life, daily routines. And once you start doing that, you'll start seeing your results, right? You have to start, because you can be motivated all you want, but if you're not disciplined, then nothing will happen.
Never get done.
Right. So start developing routines of success, and once you start doing that. So I try to get up every day, of course, because of kids, at 5, 6 o'clock. Right? And then I have a routine from that point. Right? And of course, if you don't execute a plan, you will never have success. Right? That's a given. But if you develop a routine and you have small wins, of course, from the small wins, you'll start, developing a system. And once you have a system, that is the way you win. You have to have a system of success. It's not just write on your plan and then hope that it happens. System of success says every morning I'll get up and at 9 o'clock I will call X person. If it's clients you're looking for, I'll start cold calling and stuff like that. There'll be times I don't feel to call, but because at 9 o'clock I have to make these calls, they will get up and do it. Right? If you have to, for example, you're looking for funding, and at 11 o'clock you have to call all financial institutions, and then of course on a Wednesday you have to follow up, and you have a system. So at that time, basically just executing. And it'll seem difficult, but after a while, the routine gets you there, and not necessarily the motivation. The motivation is like a one-time thing. You get hype, but then the routine is what actually gets you to that successful place,
And how do you maintain that balance? Because I hear you spoke about getting up 5, 6 o'clock because you have to deal with the children, you have to deal with the business, you have to deal with wifey, you just have to deal with life. How do you balance all of that? Kevon?
Well, I don't believe in balance. I think you mentioned that earlier, right? I believe in once you find a good rhythm, you will actually start, and that takes a while to get a rhythm, but now I have a rhythm with my wife and my kids and stuff like that. For me now, the rhythm is I work a lot and then I take a moment and we spend together.
All the time.
And I have moments that we spend and we do stuff together, right? But my balance is right now is just work. I don't have a balance. I have a rhythm, right? I take certain days off, right? Or at least just relax a little bit, right? But once I get in a rhythm, I go do this job, I go do that job. If my kids need me, I go home, I deal with it. Right? If my wife needs me, I'll drop everything and go, right? Because of course, you set things in place like that. But there is no balance really as an entrepreneur. You have to understand that the sacrifices that we make now for the deep future will always pay off. But you have to make sacrifices.
Yeah, no, for sure.
There's no two ways about it. Is either you want what he's saying is, I can't remember what he's saying is, but basically you have to work for what it is you want in the future, right? Otherwise you'll never get it. So you have to have unbalance now to be able to have balance later in the future.
Later on, yeah.
So.
Gotcha. Anything else you want to ask, Kevon, before we wrap up our conversation?
Yeah, so with your mentor, like, what is your routine like now, 9 years later after meeting this guy? Is it that like you talk to him every now and then? Like, how do you maintain contact? Do you still draw from this resource?
Not really. I mean, we do talk from time to time.
Yeah.
Right? But he is also a serial entrepreneur, so he is very busy. But I do from time to time speak to other mentors, other people in my life for different reasons. He can only give me certain things.
Yeah.
Right? But I do speak to other people. I also draw inspiration from a lot of online people and stuff like that. And I have started documenting my life. So
where we could go find it?
Well, I'm working. Well, I actually just wrote a book that we published with my sister, which is called 48 Laws of Going from Broke to Built. Right?
Congratulations on that.
Right, and thank you. And once that's documenting my life as how every single time that I went from broke to coming back up.
So is it really 48 times?
No, but it's 40 laws.
40 laws, all right. Just asking.
Yeah, 40 laws. So basically, it will give you little tips as to how to get out of that you're in. Right? There's one time that I couldn't pay rent, and I had to go and borrow $200 from somebody to go and pay rent. I had moments like that, and of course, you learn from these moments as to what to do to get out of it. And I started documenting it, rules basically, right, that you should not do if you want to be successful. Right, so I've documented those things, but I've drawn inspiration from persons like Myron Golden, from Miles Monroe, right? I've found a guy called Dan Martel recently. Those guys, they just remind you of what your purpose is, right? And a lot of people think your purpose is to make money, right? Your purpose is really just to inspire people to build a business that you can pass on, right? There's a saying that, as an entrepreneur, you'll plant this tree and you'll have this tree, but you may not be the person to sit under the shade. So you're not really building this business for me, right? And I started to have that mindset and keep pushing, knowing that I may not be the person who will actually sit under the tree and get shade. It might be my kids, it might be my employees if I pass away, God forbid. But I wouldn't stop building this entire big organization and empire because I wouldn't benefit from it.
Agreed.
Right? I might be 90 and now passing off this big empire to somebody, but I would have built it. Right? So don't ever think, today for next year or 10 years, building this thing, and when I die, that's it. I'm building this for generations. I want to be able to stack wealth for my grandkids, and that's how I'm building empires. Right? So I draw inspiration from different people. Locally, I have about 2 or 3 persons that I will tap into to have conversations about projects, about where the industries are going, about the deep future. I love talking about the deep future, right? And that's something that I think everybody should start engaging in conversation with their friends, not 5 years, but 10 years and beyond. So deep future is always 10 years and beyond.
Yeah, so tell me, in short, 2 minutes, where do you see the deep future? 10 years and beyond, with this AI generation.
Well, I can say definitely we have to change how we do our education system, right? It has to go back from there because right now we are training people for nothing, sad to say, right? There was a point in time where I used to say that the only safe job is being a plumber, but I recently saw that they're actually bringing humanoid robots that maybe in the next 10 years or so will be ready to be able to bend down and disconnect your plumbing as well too, right? So there is no safe job at this point from AI and robot technology and stuff like that. And you might say, but that is in the future. But do you know that Amazon basically replaced almost all the workers with robots that do the sorting and stuff like that, right? And even from the car industry, we have been using robots to manufacture cars for a few years now. It may not look like actual robots, but there's robotic arms and stuff like that. So jobs are being wiped out. Models, now you can get AI models and all these different things. So a lot of jobs are being wiped out. So what do? You have to train our children to do things like become prompt engineers and find businesses that will build communities and you benefit from the community and that type of stuff. So I'm trying to get into businesses, or I will advise people to get into businesses that do one to many. So you build a platform, build it once, and you have a whole community use that platform, create a subscription fee or something like that, right? But build businesses along with the tech that goes along with the tech as well too. Yeah. Because traditional jobs will not be needed I would say from about as early as 2032, around there. Traditional jobs, taxi drivers, all these things will be eliminated for the most part, So.
Gotcha. So what would be your final word of advice for that young person who is considering, okay, I'm here, I'm doing university, finishing off my business degree, I want to be that serial entrepreneur like Kevon LaFleur. What would you say to that person at this point in time as they consider their deep future?
Sure. So, firstly, you have to decide if you are the entrepreneurship type, if you're the entrepreneur person, or if you, of course, like corporate, and that's because there's no wrong path, right? You just choose the vehicle, and you can become successful in any with any on any side. If you do decide that you want to go as an entrepreneur, I would suggest finding a business that you would like to work in, and treat that business as is yours. So make sure that you're both successful. Make sure that your superiors look well, because there'll become a time when you'll become that person as well too. And if you can make another business successful, it's almost like at that point you could take any business and become successful. So don't just enter into a job space saying, okay, well, I'm just here just to make a lot of money so I can go and do my own business. No, make sure that business is a success as well too. Utilize the skills, right? Network, of course, and from there, you branch off and you do your own stuff, and failure will happen, right? There's a saying that failure isn't final. Failure is just practice for freedom. So once you could understand that about business and entrepreneurship, you will fail, but failure is not final. Then success is a few years down, a few months down, a few decades down. Once you understand that, the journey, of course, is exciting. The journey is the most important, because when you actually get to that destination, as I said before, it's very repetitive. Making money is very repetitive. You have jobs, but it's very repetitive, right? To enjoy the journey to that point itself, right? And, make the best of it in terms of sharing the knowledge after once you get to that point. So it's like come full circle, because, of course, if you're coming out of Arthur Jack, you'll be coming out with a wealth of knowledge as well, too.
Okay.
Utilize the knowledge, have the experience making money, but then come back now and share all this knowledge of business and experiences and stuff like that with younger persons,
Yeah, I have one question before you wrap up.
Sure.
Which is, so, with the economy, there are a lot of changes. So I want to find out, how you feel about staying in Trinidad, and do you also feel that staying in Trinidad as opposed to migrating would be best for your journey and for your businesses?
Sure. So I just took a trip to the state, right? In New York, to be specific. And every time you go to places, you get to see so much, how much the world has advanced, right? And when you come back home, two things: you come back with ideas, but you also come back feeling as though, wow, we're so far behind. Simple as you leave the country and you can't get US dollars. That's a simple one, right? Because, of course, our system is, right? But then there's the option of having businesses abroad, right? Earning US dollars abroad, right? So for me, I think that as a business person, you have to, you build your concept for Trinidad, but of course, you develop it globally, right? So, for example, if it's events and you have a party, let's just say for want of a better, you have a party called Barber Hall, right? You take that party elsewhere.
Yeah.
You earn US dollars, right? And of course, now you're global at that point, right? But I definitely think that persons need to leave the country, one, to experience other cultures and other ideas, other technology. And if you bring it back to Trinidad, of course, you can build it and do it differently here. But in terms of the financial side, you can never really survive. You'll always have a cap, especially coming from a Caribbean island or Caribbean country. You'll always have a cap. So it's best to just go regionally, find different ways to make money besides, of course, in Trinidad as well too. So I'm definitely looking at the same. I mean, after a while, you travel and you see where other opportunities are, right? And for one, that will reignite a lot of the creative juices in terms of business and stuff like that. And you don't feel as though you're doing the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, I feel it.
So definitely travel and open businesses other places. And Trinidad is not the be all end all. It's just a nice place. And I will say that Trinidad has a lot of creative people. We have a lot of opportunities, right? That we're not even tapping into. So it's like wide open market in almost every single sector. But when you travel and you see things, you get to realize, okay, we have so much that we can do, right, in the different industries,
Definitely. So as we wrap up our conversation, a joke or a quote?
Wow.
You have to share a joke or a quote real quick with us.
Let me see where I have a quote. I have a quote. I gotta look for that quote. I have a
Coming soon.
We are here with Kevon LaFleur, and there is a quote that's coming soon.
I did that. I could tell it. Let me see. I read quotes.
How much may you give me quotes throughout the entire conversation?
All my quotes. Let's give you a simple one.
All right, I'll take it.
So, but I document all my quotes, right? Whenever I could think of something. So some of them must be very simple. right? This one says, I have to read it again. Right. Legacy doesn't start with money, right? It starts with a mindset. It's very simple. But at the end of the day, you can become rich here first. Well, it always happens that way. You always get rich here first, and then it manifests in the real world, right? So it doesn't start with money, it starts with a mindset. And I believe that. And I believe I was able to see all my successes and even the future successes so detailed that I actually write down every single thing, and then I live it. So it always starts in the mind, and I really believe that. So the mindset is where it's at.
All right. So we want to thank Kevon LaFleur for being here on Conversation Inc. And you can check out Kevon with Clinical Media Group and King's Lounge Barber Spa. Make sure and check out Kevon's episode on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Conversation Inc. Thank you so much, Kevon, for being here with us. Yes.
Thank you.
Over and out.